Sisters and brothers, ladies and gentlemen, friends, neighbors, comrades, all citizens of the world, wherever you're going, wherever you've been, and wherever you're at, we welcome you to the Live from the Heartland show here on YouTube. New episodes air every Friday at 9 a.m. Central Time with individual interviews posted throughout the following week. I'm your host, Michael James, encouraging you to take the chain from the brain, to get back in the people's game, because it's time to move from the lower level to the higher, from the shallower to the deeper, from the one-sided to the many, and from the abstract to the concrete. So without further ado, let's get it on. Welcome all you citizens of the world. Once again, it's Michael James with another edition of the Live from the Heartland show. This one is for the week of March 30th in the year 2024, and we are recording it on Monday, March 30th. You know, as a kid growing up, my dad told some stories about what he did when he was younger, and two of the things that he did were to work not only in Alaska, but in Hawaii. And somehow along the way, I acquired the desire to hit all 50 states. And I've had two to go until just this past week when I arrived in Hawaii. And it's a trip I finally made, and I'm so glad I'm here. Currently, I'm on Ewa, which is spelled E-W-A. It's near Pearl Harbor and Honolulu on the island of Oahu in the great state of Hawaii. And I'm visiting two of my good friends and their families. They're both interesting guys. They've both been involved politically for a long time. They are longtime progressives in their various worlds. Michael McGraw is one, and he's a musician. And Guy Benjamin is another, and he is a former NFL quarterback. And both of them have been living in Hawaii for many years. So I'm taking this opportunity to talk to each of them about their own lives, their own views on things, and whatever they care to share. Before we get going, though, with our first guest, let me just say that I've been waiting anxiously to see who won this Cook County State's Attorney race. And the latest thing I've heard, this is Monday, remember, the 25th. Burke holds a slim lead over Harris. It's been trimmed to 2,015 votes. And the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners said on Sunday that there are 54,000 outstanding mail-in ballots. Now, not all of them will be sent in, or even if they are, maybe they won't be on time, but we're waiting to see who is going to be the next state's attorney after Kim Foxx leaves. On the bad front, we have a tragedy in Russia, and I'm sure you all are aware of the shooting there where nearly 200 people were killed. There's a big brouhaha about who's responsible from Putin's view, but it's pretty clear it was not the Ukrainians. Also on the bad front, we have a war in the Ukraine, war in Palestine, and war in Africa. On a better front, there's a new president I read today in Senegal, where the youth finally pushed the older guys out. It was a big victory, and it was carried out with no violence. And another good thing that I heard this morning was that the United States has abstained in the Security Council vote in the UN that is calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. So the U.S. is also stepping up its criticism of the current Israeli government. That, I think, is good. You know, I could go on with more things I've read and heard or waiting to know about, but since we have two young fellas who are pretty good with their chops and doing some talking, I'm going to end it here. We'll take a short musical break, music by our first guest, Michael Piranha McGraw. So everyone stay tuned here on the left end of your dial or however you're getting this show. We'll be right back, and we'll bring on Michael Piranha McGraw.
I woke up tonight feeling like I should. I got a 409 up under my hood. I feel good.
Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of March 30th. And it gives me a lot of pleasure to bring on our next guest. He's someone I go way back to the early 70s with. We were both members of Rising Up Angry. And he did work at the Heartland Cafe for a while before he kept touring the country with various bands that he was involved with, and finally moving to Hawaii. It's the one and only Michael Piranha McGraw from Honolulu, Hawaii. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
Good morning to you. It's morning here.
Aloha kakahiaka. That's good morning here.
How about telling our listeners, you have been on our show before, particularly after the big fire, as well as with some of your music. But I'd like to get your take on a number of things today. Let's tell our listeners, our viewers, a little bit about who you are and how you ended up coming from, well, how we met, how you grew up in Chicago, and how you ended up in Hawaii.
Well, we met in 72. I had a really good band named Killing Floor. The band was homegrown, south side of Chicago. I was the kid from McKinley Park, 35th and Western. And then there was a kid from the Kelly High School area, Larry Gauman, down on 45th and Fairfield. And then two guys from Archer Park, which we considered the suburbs because it was 2 miles away. We thought they were all more fortunate than us because they had bungalows. But it was Mick Archer and Chuck Pasda. And that was our band, and we were playing around, and Mick was I was student council president in 71, then graduated. Mick was student council president in 72. And in 72, Nixon mined the harbors in Cambodia, and Mick organized a walkout of the whole school. And I went to support him, even though I was already out of high school for a year. And Rising Up Angry, people were there to help and advise, and also get in some good trouble. And a couple of them were arrested, and a couple of Kelly. I think Mick was arrested, and he was my best friend at the time. So, that I thought, well, this was pretty cool. This unit of people that looked really hip and smart and gentle too, came down and showed their anger not at us, but at the authorities that were coming after us for walking out, or for at least me for being there for the walkout. So that was my first association with Rising Up Angry. I think Jill Nelson was the first person I met, and then you were the second. So that's how I got, and then the band got locked into playing for stuff to help the Angry cause.
Yeah, we had these people's dances, and I remember Killing Floor played at one that we held at the old dance studio on Racine and Seminary, I believe it was Mo Ming. And you and I have been pals ever since. How did you end up coming to Hawaii?
We were booked here to play in 1978 when our agency, who was called the Good Music Agency, that's kind of ironic, but GMA, they were out of Missoula, Montana. They booked a lot of Chicago bands, but Missoula was their headquarters. And we somehow got connected up with them through Prestige Talent in Chicago. And the GMA agent called and said, how'd you like to go to Hawaii with your band for 13 weeks? And we're like, yeah. And he said, well, if you'll play, it was winter. And he said, if you'll play Wisconsin, Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Manitoba, and then swing back and touch all those clubs again, which is a death sentence in the winter, we'll send you to Hawaii. So we did it. And damn near froze a couple times. I had our guitar player, Phil, got stranded. It was 1978. There wasn't even a payphone, let alone a cell phone. He sat there with his cold Indiana ass in his car until somebody found him. It was rugged for a touring band. But we got back home, and they sent us here for 13 weeks, and we fired them and stayed for 14 months, and then booked ourselves back 8 times. And then I moved here.
And what year was that?
92. We had been released from MCA Records after we recorded an album for them. It was only released in Japan. And they gave us our masters back, which was good because I own them now with Scott Myers. And we were 30. Tom Piranha and I were both in our late 30s. So no sense thinking about getting re-signed, as Hal would know, who was signed, and Cadian would know. 38 is senior citizen in pop music, So we were too old to be re-signed to a major, so we moved here and just started working locally. I'm happy we did. We've had a real good career here.
Well, share a little bit about that, because while I've been out here with you, I've gone to 3 musical events, 2 of them all 3 you were involved with. One of them, there was a band playing, and you were called up to sing. And it's you clearly, from what I've seen, a lot of people, and you've played a lot of places. The narrative you gave me as we drove to the North Shore and went around the island, we'd spend a whole day visiting places. Tell people a little bit about what it's like playing on the island and what it's like being a working, gigging musician on a pretty much daily basis.
That's a good question. And by the way, that drive North Shore and back was one of my most pleasurable days in a long time. So thanks for taking that with me. This island, it keeps you humble, no matter what your level of success is. It keeps you humble without keeping you humiliated. We're a hospitality-based economy. We're the 12th largest city in the United States here in Honolulu, and we count on at least 200,000 incoming visitors a day coming and going, and the turnover. That keeps us rolling completely. I mean, we'd be a pineapple stand if everybody stopped coming here for their vacations. So that being said, there's big stars from this island. If you go on and look at any of the Playing for Change videos, you'll occasionally or more often than not see John Cruz, who's a big star here. Lopaka Colon, who's my percussionist and a big star here. He also lives in Mick Fleetwood's band. Mick lives on Maui. So you see these guys of big stature. I've won 4 awards for Best Rock Album since 1998 and a Best of the Best performance. All that stuff doesn't stop me from playing for $200 for a set at lunch where everybody's eating and not listening. It's not my place to say, hey, look at me years are long over. So I'm a sonic backdrop, a curtain for their what they need to work out and eat. So it's kind of a good feeling because you play covers, you play some of your stuff, you work on material, and even Jack Johnson or Johnny or Taimani or any of the people you see nationally, they'll come and play a club just like that, where people are eating dinner. It's pretty funny to see Jack Johnson get 30,000 people in a stadium and then play the Maui Arts and Culture Center and people are looking for their waiter. I mean, it keeps you humble. There's no pretensions here of hi muckety muck guy, I love that. And it gives me a chance to keep working late in my years, which I'm doing.
Yeah, you're doing
pretty
good. Yeah, I enjoy. We went to a place called Tiki's.
Yeah.
And you played there, and then we were at Nico's. We went to see another band, but the Nico's experience, which is a restaurant, he's a French fellow. He invited you to bring me along to the fish market, the auction. And why don't you tell people a little bit about that? Because I've been posting pictures, and I'm sure we'll have Hal put some up for the video versions of this show. But it was something else to see these fishing boats had just come in and they're unloading these giant tuna, and then there's guys bidding on them. Tell me a little bit about your impressions.
He was so excited to have us and you as mainline photojournalists there. And he's a wonderful guy, right? He's very unassuming. You'd look at him and say, does he work at the ice company next door? And he's the owner of Nico's. He's Nico, Nico Chazet. And I think he first told, he's wonderful. He's so excited to show us what they do. And I remember him telling you and me, when you go in there and they're doing the auction, do not even raise your hand accidentally because you will buy a fish. And, he was just playful and happy about it. And we saw bluefin tuna, yellowfin tuna, big-eyed tuna. We saw swordfish. We saw aku. We saw sharks. We saw the room with beheaded and detailed sharks for whatever shark meat delicacy. Probably that stuff goes to Japan. Don't know. But, I mean, what did we see? We saw 29,000 pounds was the catch the day you and I walked through there because it was on the auction board. We saw 29,000 pounds of really big fish. It was amazing. He loves showing you. And naturally, you always go for humanity, not engineering shots. So you look for the guy who's got the cigarette closing his one eye, or a guy whose fishtail slapping him back while he's holding it, and you always capture that moment. So I thought it was a good outing for your eye and for us in the morning.
Yeah, it was good. And we'll be talking about it for the rest of our lives, I'm sure. Clearly you love the island and you love living here. uh, you probably would love being wherever you are, but what are some of the challenges of being like 3,000 miles away from the West Coast, or the challenges of just being a big city with things going on, and challenges of being a Halle guy, a white guy in a a non-white culture in many ways here?
Well, traveling to see your loved ones who are not living in the 50th state or even off islands a world away if you're a busy person on the island you live on. So the challenge of me not being able to drive over to either of my daughter's houses or go see my sister, it would take me, Sherry lives in Joliet. So to fly there, and then, fly back. And so it's a big plan to visit your loved ones. That's the most hurtful thing. And especially for my wife, Diana, who's 10 feet tall and bulletproof, even though she's 5'2". She's just so resolute and resilient, but she's a twin. Her sister's in Canada, in Victoria, Vancouver Island. And those two are truly joined at the womb. They've been, best friends forever since they were in mommy's tummy. And she misses her horribly. So that I'm emphasizing that. The other challenges are everything costs a third more than it does in the mainland. Gas, groceries. You live with that. Wages might be a little higher here. I know my wage for a musician, if I was working around, Joliet and Romeoville and Waukegan, and I was working those places, I wouldn't be making $250 for a 1 hour set, which is basically the going rate. I'll make between 4 and 5 at night for a 2 hour evening. So I can generate that cash so I can pay $6 for a box of Fruit Loops. That's, so that answers the second challenge. As far as the racial challenge, this place is such a melting pot. The people who do step up and say, this is our island, this is our land, you have to respect it. My only take on this, and this isn't, I'm not taking a political stance on it. Everybody's an immigrant here. The Marquesans came here 2,000 years ago. They paddled here. My hat's off to them. I flew here. But, this island has been populated with any kind of mammals. There were no mammals on this island, no humans on this island 2,000 years ago on these islands. So we're all immigrants. And I think that's part of the goodwill that's here. Everybody treats, overt racism is almost invisible here. If people practice it, they must be doing it in their basement on their crappy little laptop, because there's a whole lot of love here. And that's what keeps me here. Nice weather, and that's always a plus. But the kindness is real. I like it. If they take a salty old bastard like me, hey.
Let me ask you a little bit more about life on the island. It tends to be politically Democratic dominant.
Yeah.
You did tell me that there were some Trumpers riding around, and everyone seems to be driving a Toyota or a Ford truck, a four-door truck with a little bed in the back. And you told me there were these Trumpers riding around with American flags, and I did see one the other day. It was these guys, old brand new vehicle, just laden with all stuff.
They're so cute. So we look, there's 9 people voting for Trump on the island. Look how they're cute. We're so overwhelmingly Democratic, right?
One of the things that hit me, we were driving around, we were taking a friend of yours to the hospital, a military hospital, Army hospital, and we went back the next day. And then at some point, we were talking about fuel and the price of gas. And there are very few electric vehicles here. And someone said, well, it takes oil to charge the charging stations. So, and I don't think, we did see some windmills, and I'm sure that a lot of other places there are windmills, but it made me wonder, are the charges in the States, are they charged by windmills, or are they charged by fuel? And what's the contradiction there?
I know that there's pitifully few public charging stations here. So even though you can circumnavigate the island, or you probably drive around it twice before your battery goes there, what do you get, 240 miles out of a charged Tesla or something? So that's circling the island a couple of times. So I mean, I think the sense of urgency, like it's not like, hey, we're 100 miles from Tulsa, better put a charging station here, because it's 200 miles from the next place. So we don't have that problem. Everything is so centrally located because we're 40 miles wide and 50 miles, straight up and down. So.
Well, one of the things we did while I was staying with you, and I'm now staying over in Iwa. Eva. I'm working on it. The guy who will be our next guest. But you, every morning, we would watch Jimmy Kimmel. And you would introduce me to movies I had not seen. And you would introduce me to musicians I didn't know anything about. You accused me of really being a backwater guy, kind of, any new names and all that. So talk a little bit about the...
Wait. To say to your adoring public, may I quote Michael James directly? Who's this Bruno Mars guy? I rest my case to Supreme Court. Even the Supreme Court writers go, oh, no, he don't know Bruno Mars. So,
Well, I was pretty impressed with that Uptown song that he did, that everyone was dancing away.
Yeah.
But who are some of the people I should be looking out to take in and, grasp and feel the vibe? And who are some of the comedians that you think are important?
Well, off this island, just quickly a plug for the island, I would listen to John Cruz and John Helm. They're two of my favorites, and they're my good friends. They make excellent music, excellent. And I'll just put the plug in for them too, because I could go on and on. There's so many talented musicians here. But I'm an acoustic soul, modern acoustic soul fanboy. That's my thing. So I sneak over into some pop country, but mostly I stay down the Americana listening line, because I will listen for hours at people who ply the same craft that I like the sound of. So Amos Lee, of course, Foy Vance, he's unbelievable. Amos Lee, Lee Rogers, another Irish bard, he's unbelievable. There's a northern British guy named Charlie Cunningham. I listen to all these guys all the time. I'm kind of buried in those grooves right now. So I'm 70. I try not to get fed stuff by people who think I should hear it. I'll find it. And I'm so grateful for AI. My Spotify loves me. I'll be listening to stuff and Mr. AI will come on and say, whoa, Piranha, try this because you listen to that. And I love it. I mean, they show me a whole world that the connectivity and the style and the professionalism kills me. I love it. So I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. Start with Amos Lee and Foy Vance and then go left from there. You'll love it.
I'll be working on that. Now, let me ask you a little bit about your favorite comics, because, I don't watch a lot of comedy. I think I'm funny enough, but you're the guy making jokes all the time. You got a bunch of jokes you tell all the time, and you do study these comics. You got some favorites?
Yeah, I do. I love the guys that work semi-clean. I love your Chicago boy, Sebastian Maniscalco. He's even Jerry Seinfeld said he might be the funniest guy alive. But I don't know that he's that, but he cracks me up, and it's all based in, he's from Chicago, so he talks like this. He lives in LA now in a mansion because he fills stadiums with comedy. Sebastian Maniscalco, Brian Regan, still one of my favorites. I love that Finnish comic Ismo. He cracks me up. I like Kimmel and Conan and all the stuff they do, because they have their own shows because they're the funniest guys on the planet. A handful of them, right? So and Kimmel will always lead you to more funny people. Or your AI on YouTube. Did you like Kimmel? Well, listen to this fella, right?
Well, you have a giant TV. It inspired me to try to get a larger TV, but
it inspired my wife to file divorce papers for about 5 minutes when it got delivered.
Let me ask you about your next door neighbor and what he said when you told him where I was going to go.
I said you were going out, Eva, to stay with, because Mike has been stoned. My friend Mike Lum, most wonderful neighbor on the planet, just fantastic. Looks out for everybody on the block. Big Hawaiian boy. He's an aquatics instructor at the exclusive Kamehameha school system. and he's in his mid-50s, and he's terrific. And he's a freak for college basketball, football, baseball. He's just he has 3 TVs in his house, and you can hear him swearing as he passes one, and then sitting down to the other one and clapping hands, applauding and swearing. I just love him so much. But I said, my amigo Michael's going to go out and stay with his longtime friend, Guy Benjamin. And I didn't even get a descriptive follow-up with that. He went, Guy Benjamin, Stanford, 49ers. That guy is a stud. I've never heard Mike call somebody a stud, because he's basically a stud. And, and I told him, yeah, sometime, we'll hook up. We'll get a guy up here to have a Modelo. That's what Mike likes to drink. We'll have a Modelo with. But yeah, he's crazy about Guy. He followed his career.
Well, hopefully we'll get them to meet each other. It won't be while I'm here. But Michael, we got about a minute left. How about do you think of any parting words on the world and going forward, and as serious as you want to make it?
I've lost some really close friends, and I'm losing another one in the last year and a half so rapidly and so quickly to the worst degenerative diseases that we all fear having. And I've come to a place where it's my mission not to pack a nightclub, but to help them out, help them on their way out. That's what I've been doing. And or seeing you after not seeing you since 16 or 17 when I came there to run a marathon. So just cherishing every moment I have with the people who were the fabric of my life. It feels freaking great.
Well, Piranha McGraw, Mike, you are a wonderful guy, and I am very proud to be your friend and happy to be your friend, glad to be your friend. And I want to thank you you and Diana for being such a gracious hosts as I lumbered around your house, dodging your cats, looking out
they love you,
looking for geckos, and having a good time. And I'll maybe see you later today if we get in to see you at
Tiki's. I'm reserving a table right in front of me, so you will suffer. Okay.
All right, everybody, stay tuned here on the left end of your dial, or wherever you're getting the show. We're going to take a musical break. We'll hear some more of Mike Piranha McGraw, and we'll be right back with our next guest, the one and only Guy Benjamin. Welcome back, all you citizens of the world. It's Michael James and Eva on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. And let's thank Michael McGraw for the previous segment and all the great music that we are playing in between the two segments of the show. My next guest is someone I've known since sometime probably in the early 80s, mid 80s. I was at the Seafarers Union Hall with my friend Dave Megacy, who was a professional football player and, quite a renowned personality. And he was running the National Football League Players Association office. And nearby was his partner, his friend, Guy Benjamin, a quarterback for the 49ers and other teams, who was president of Athletes United for Peace. And that's, I think, where we first met. And then not long after that, Guy invited me to go on a trip to Nicaragua. And that was the beginning of a number of times hanging out together. We went to Nicaragua on 2 occasions. We played a lot of baseball. We toured the island. We met a lot of Sandinistas and other folks. And then we went to the old USSR toward the end. I think it was 89, where we did play some baseball in both Moscow and Donetsk. And we went to Ireland together and drove around on the way back with the late Dan Goich, another football player who came out of Mount Carmel High School in Chicago. And here I am now as a guest in his home along with his wife, Malia. And I'm 30, 40 feet from the beach in the Pacific. And we're having a good time. So with all that said, hello, Guy Benjamin.
Aloha, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been good drinking coffee with you this morning, getting ready to
Right.
do this interview. Tell a little bit tell the folks about your career, how you ended up playing football, what you did, and then we'll come to Hawaii.
Oh, I think it's just, I get asked that question a lot, and it's really not like I said, oh, I'm going to play in the NFL and, everything. I just played sports, and I was good in football, other sports as well. But then as you just evolve, you end up kind of, the scout will come and talk to you, and then the college coach will offer you a scholarship, and then it just kind of evolves like that. And so I ended up getting a football scholarship to Stanford. And so, of course, anybody in their right mind has to take that, right? Go to Stanford for free. Especially from my background, there's just no way I could get into Stanford otherwise, and afford it as well. But anyway, so I got to Stanford and became a intellectual and hooked up with Megacy and you, and just really got into politics.
You are a progressive guy, and so were you around when were you playing ball at the 49ers or the Dolphins or New Orleans when the union was getting going? Were you?
Yeah, so I was actually a union rep for the 49ers when we went out on strike. So, of course, I had a target on my back from the owners. But I still was able to play for 7 years in the NFL, and that got me vested and got me a good-sized pension. So now I live on the beach in Hawaii. I live in a plantation community. It's not, when I tell people I live in Hawaii, it's like I don't live on those beautiful homes that are on the side of the hill, right? I'm really living in a plantation, single-story workers. Actually, a lot of my neighbors were plantation workers at one time when the plantations were open.
Yeah, we, I did on my ride around the island with Michael McGraw. We did stop at the Dole Plantation store, which is like Disneyland. The ice cream was good, it was pineapple flavored, but it was
tourists.
There was a lot of, as a kid, I heard my dad, he worked in the summer, probably in the 20s sometime for Libby, and he was on a plantation somewhere and told me he could see the leper colony down in Molokai from where he was working. Where we are now, there's a lot of small houses, little kind of cabins that have been, extended. But nearby, we saw these new developments. And that seems to be something that, when you say you're going to Hawaii, a lot of people think, oh, it's hoity-toity. But clearly there's a large proletarian population here. And it's a largely non-white. You yourself have married into a Samoan family that's quite large. What's that been like for you?
Besides getting my ass whipped by the Samoan relatives, it's wonderful. The best thing about Hawaii is it's multicultural, and you've got and it goes back to the plantation camps. And so they started off with a camp of Filipinos or Puerto Ricans or Chinese, Japanese, and they were as it grew and it got more citizens, more people, more population. You'd have the little Japanese girls would sneak over at night over to the little Puerto Rican boys, and they'd go, they would oof as the
Puerto Rican boys would sneak over.
Yeah,
to the girls.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, so they would oof each other. Samoan word for that, and so there was a lot of future generations became very
multiracial. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Right.
So let me backtrack a little bit and ask how you ended up coming to Hawaii.
Well, yeah. So I was coaching at Stanford, and an assistant coach became the head coach at Hawaii because he was a college roommate of the athletic director. And so Fred Von Oppen. And so Fred, I was a good friend of Fred's, and Fred asked me if I wanted to come to Hawaii with him. And I said, heck yeah. You know,
he was a coach at Stanford, and you were working with him there. You were coaching at Stanford after you played ball.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah. So we came over here. He wasn't a very good head football coach. So he got fired and I stayed. And then I ended up meeting my current wife, who, she was born in Western Samoa, which is different from American Samoa. So Western Samoa is more traditional South Pacific, and her mom was Samoan, and her dad was Fijian Indian, and they were able to raise a family, and then I met her, and we ended up getting married. And when I met her, and once I got married, that was it. You know, I was destined to stay in the Pacific.
So you for a time you were involved at the University of Hawaii, and I guess the team is called the Rainbow Warriors.
Yeah.
And, we went to, when I was a few days before I hooked up with you, I went to a game with the Rainbow Warriors of the University of Hawaii playing San Diego State. And they were losing, but they kicked ass in the long run. But it's a very well-developed, it's like Northwestern, which is plush athletic facilities. I mean, they were volleyball courts, ball fields, beautiful baseball diamond. And what was it like for you as a coach? And talk a little bit about being a coach there. And then you went on to coach an arena football team. I want to get all the sports and politics in.
Sure. So what happened as a coaching staff from the mainland coming over here, and we're meeting with the team and we're doing drills, and we looked down and half the team didn't have any cleats on. They were barefoot. And it was like, hey guys, go get your cleats on. Coach, we don't have any cleats. You know, we're going to do this barefoot. This is what we do. And it was like, oh, you know, okay, here we go. So it was very different culturally, you know. But, you know, I do want to say that it's a wonderful place in the world. It is multicultural. My children are white. Obviously, they're Samoan, Asian, Indian, Chinese, Filipino. You know, and so they're mixed with all of those
pretty neat
ethnicities. And the thing about it is that they take the culture too. So you're just not 5 different ethnicities. You bring 5 different cultures with you as you grow up and as you marry and as you move on. I mean, it's this tremendous milieu of how was that? I learned that at Stanford. That word.
Milieu.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
How was that?
You know, Guy, let me jump in here. when I was driving around the island, we went through a town that was a Samoan, pretty much Samoan Mormon town, and they have a big temple, and it was like going to Nauvoo, Illinois in the summer where there are hundreds of Mormon kids. There were all these people. It was like a very beautiful temple, lots of people. And I believe that's the town where there's a team called the Red Raiders. And I'm connecting that to in the NFL when we watch games, probably in college too, there are all these Samoan and probably mixed race Samoan or mixed ethnicities that are playing in pro football these days. Can you talk a little bit about, not only how people's got, your wife was telling me about different size shaped hips for power, but there's a lot of big guys in the NFL who are Samoan. And I didn't ever realize that until the last couple of years.
Right. And so the Mormons went to colonize Samoa, and then they brought them back to Hawaii because they've had the Mormon temples and a strong religion, background here. And they were incredible athletes, but they really want to bring the family here into Hawaii and then eventually to the mainland in California. Utah, obviously, is a huge destination for them. So, but coming from Samoa, just like a lot of other countries, it's like you have to you want to bring them out. The way that they get out of Samoa is through football now, or in the past it was the military. Join the military. We got plenty of military Samoans in the military. They aren't citizens, but they can sure fight and die for the for the US.
Good old USA. Well, speaking of the military, there's quite a big military presence here.
Right.
With my first guest, Mike McGraw, we took a friend of his who has cancer up to this Army hospital. I'm not sure the name of it, but it's a massive complex.
Right.
And then you've got Pearl Harbor here. What's the influence of people in the military on the island or the military itself on the island?
Well, they try to have it low key. And so they have a rule: don't wear your uniform out in public, right? Unless it's necessary, right? So you don't see, but you can tell with the haircuts and the style, right? And the kind of cars that they drive, the military kids drive, you can tell who the military are. And it really doesn't matter. And, they integrate with the locals here pretty well. So, but I go back to the best thing about Hawaii that a lot of people don't know is how multicultural it is. And I love it. I live in an old plantation village, and on my street, we don't have a whole lot of white people living there. We got a lot of Hawaiians, a lot of Filipinos, a lot of Samoans, and we all mix together. And it's a wonderful experience. I think it's what the world will become one day, hopefully.
I like that.
Being able to experience each other's culture, and do it on a one-on-one basis, really. I mean, there's a whole nother world in Hawaii that's different than those luau's at the Hilton Hotel, right? So
yeah, no, it's from being in Honolulu and driving around. I mean, I saw a lot of things, and I'm driving around the island, but clearly there are real chunks of territory where people are not, making big bucks. there's some places with some really rough edges still. Now, let me ask you a little bit about, I mentioned politics earlier with Mike McGraw, that it's mostly Democrats here, and the role.
Right.
What's the role of unions, and how about the unionization of the coaches at the University of Hawaii campus?
Right. So when it became a state, and when was that? 58 or I don't even know. I live here. I don't even know when it became a state. 58, 59, somewhere in there. Union organizers came and organized all of the plantation workers. And I mean like all of them, most of them. And so as the economy developed, then it just became natural for the unions to come in here for the different other industries.
And when you were a coach at the University of Hawaii, was it unionized then, or has that happened after you left?
Yeah, no. So the whole state, the state government, including the school systems, are all unionized and heavily democratic with that. And so, I went in to become a football coach over here and realized that, hey, this is your union card. And I'm like, what's this? Get a union card. Well, everybody's a member of the union. And so it was the only, I don't know, maybe there are some other football staffs that are unionized throughout the country, hopefully. But it was pretty shocking to see that the University of Hawaii athletic department was all unionized.
Well, that's good. I like that.
Yeah,
I need more of that. What do you think some of the challenges are here on the island that you have to deal with, that other people might have to deal with? And even before, I want to ask, are there still plantations in the old school sense with people working in fields, or is it mechanized?
Yeah, there are no plantations in any sense here. The plantations are up and closed. I believe throughout the state, certainly on this island. So the little thing that you and Mike visited was kind of set up for, this is what the plantations used to look like. And
no, that was just a gift shop of Disney extraordinaire. Right. But so there's no agriculture exports these days of pineapples or any of that kind of thing anymore?
None. It's cheaper to go to the Philippines or Indonesia. And so we have none of that at all.
What about the vegetables you eat, like the Brussels sprouts that I had at one bar and I had here?
Probably California or South America.
And are they coming on boats or are they coming in cargo planes?
Cargo ships.
Yeah, I heard these big planes overhead this morning.
Yeah, cargo. I mean, it's incredible. We have to import everything, including oil, which runs our electricity. So it's somewhat dangerous to think about. That you could shut off all of our energy and our food.
Wow. But there's not a little, organic gardening, movement going on?
a little one. I mean, we have some banana trees and some papaya trees, and my wife loves mangoes. So she's always hopping over the neighbor's fence to get some mangoes, but
we got mango bread here. We're going to eat that right after the show. Let me go back to that question. I mean, you kind of addressed it already. You talked about how everything is coming from the mainland or from somewhere further in the Pacific. But what are some challenges? I mean, you had a big, massive fire here. And that I imagine is still a big challenge. You have people buying up property here that raises the whatever on locals. Any of that stuff you'd like to share or address?
Absolutely. There are hundreds of homeless people here, and up to, I would say at one time, thousands within the last couple of years. You can go out on the west part of the island here, and you see people camping out, and you see families camping out, and a lot of them are Hawaiians, and the Hawaiians have a political position is that this is our land, and we're not going to be see the cost of property and homes is so high, and you've got all of these developments, but local people here in my neighborhood, they can't afford it. They can't afford it, and so you get kicked out, or drink a little bit too much, or have a fight with a family, and you're going to be sleeping out on the beach with it. So we got
or on the side of a building somewhere, or
right. Yeah,
we did see a lot of homeless people driving around in Honolulu,
and it's gotten better because it's really been an effort to not have, Hawaiians live here. This is their ancestry, and we're going to ask them to no, you can't afford it. Where are you going to go? You got to go sleep outside. It's crazy. So there's a lot of people that don't like that and are trying their best to come up with different programs, like nonprofits, churches are involved in being able to support and house and feed. But that's kept off the side. You're going to come to Honolulu and go to Waikiki. You're not going to see a whole lot of that. You might see a little bit, but that's really kept quiet on the side.
Well, Guy, it's good talking to you, and I'll see you in a couple minutes. We'll have some breakfast together and prepare for the next day or so of our activities before I go back to Chicago. I want to thank everyone who made this show possible. Our engineer, Hal James, our producer, Tom Clark, Katie Hogan, and Lynn Orman, and both of our guests, Michael Piranha McGraw and Guy Benjamin. So everybody out there, do good in the world. The world needs all the good that you do, that we all do together. There's so much to do, particularly getting ready for this election coming up in November. And we'll see you next week. All power to the people. Over and out.
Right.
We want to thank you for watching the Live from the Heartland show. New episodes air every Friday beginning at 9 a.m. Central Time. Episodes air each following Thursday on CAN TV, 9 p.m. in Sweet Home Chicago on Channel 21, or streaming everywhere else at cantv.org. Audio episodes go live on WLUW each Saturday, 9 a.m. on the left end of your dial at 88.7 FM, or streaming everywhere worldwide at WLUW.org. They're available on Apple and Spotify podcasts by looking up Live from the Heartland on either platform, and are also broadcast on Lumpen Radio each Friday at 9 a.m. on 105.5 FM and streaming at lumpenradio.com. I'm Michael James, and I'm glad to have been your host. Until next time, remember, do good in the world, because the world needs all the good that you do, that I do, that we do together. All power to the people. Over and out.
Come to limb. Are you doing the best you can? Tell me, are you doing